Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined today by the new Wild head coach, Brett McLean. Coach McLean, how are things going today?
Real good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
So first, I want to start by saying congratulations on being named the new head coach. It's been a couple weeks since you've been named head coach. Has it just kind of settled, or does it still feel very surreal?
Well, yeah, it's a great feeling for sure. Can't wait for this opportunity to kind of get started. Really looking forward to the fall, and even before that, really looking forward to our development camp and getting there with all of our prospects. But yeah, it's been an exciting couple weeks, no question.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you got into hockey.
Well, from Western Canada, off the west coast, Vancouver Island, Comox Valley, to be specific. And growing up in Canada, it's just a rite of passage to get into hockey at a young age. Obviously, two older brothers, so that I was always trying to keep up with them, and was fortunate enough to show some promise at a young age at hockey, and played junior in the Western Hockey League for a full 5 years, and then turned pro. And after 4 years in the bouncing around the minor leagues, I was able to make it to the NHL with the Chicago Blackhawks, played a season for them. And then there was a lockout. So I went to Sweden during that lockout, played 2 seasons for the Colorado Avalanche, and then 2 seasons for the Florida Panthers. And then went to Europe for 8 years, played 6 in Switzerland, 2 in Bern, 4 in Lugano. And then finished my career with 2 years in Linz, Austria. So bounced around all over the place. But because of that, kind of led me, that hockey journey kind of led me into coaching, and has really helped me as a coach, because it's easy for me to relate to all different type of players, because obviously I've kind of been in their shoes, whether I've played in their home country or I've played the role that they're asked to be playing. So and then now as a coach, I started with 3 years with the Iowa Wild as an assistant coach. Was lucky enough to get elevated to Minnesota by Dean Evanson, was there for 3 years, and now here we are. Lucky enough to be the head coach of the Iowa Wild.
So looking back at your playing career, is there anything that kind of stands out as one of your most memorable moments?
Real lucky that I had a few memorable moments. Certainly, first NHL goal with the Blackhawks against Columbus is always one that stands out. With Colorado Avalanche making it to the second round of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs was I remember that feeling when we actually beat the Dallas Stars in the first round. I remember sitting in the locker room just feeling such a sense of accomplishment with my teammates. And then a couple big ones actually happened in Europe. One was winning the Swiss Championship with SC Bern. That was a fantastic feeling, and again, just sitting in the locker room accomplishing our goal as a team is something I'll never forget. And then also I played in 6 Spengler Cups for Team Canada, and we won it the 1 year, and so I'll never forget that. And it's a really special tournament in the Swiss Alps in Davos, and to have my family there with me, and again, that's a fantastic memory to have the Hockey Canada jersey on, and to win that championship.
Now, you mentioned your first NHL goal. Do you remember how you scored it? Can you set us up for the moment?
Yeah, I do remember it. It was in Columbus against Mark Denis, and was the goalie for the Blue Jackets. And puck was cycled around behind the net to Steve Sullivan, and I was just kind of in the slot right around the strong side hash mark, and Sully just passed it out, put it right on my tape, and I just one-timed it on the ice just inside the far post. So I remember calling my parents after that game, and to think about all the sacrifice they'd made and all the early mornings and all the money they'd spent to give me the opportunity to play pro hockey. So that's a special feeling to share that with my parents.
So you mentioned you previously spent some time in Iowa. Was it an easy transition back into the coaching role? And can you tell us what was the conversation like with Bill Guerin?
Yeah, well, my first time in Iowa was I did find it relatively easy to transition to coaching. I think I've been the oldest player on my team for the last 4 years playing hockey. So I think without even knowing it, I was coaching, so to speak, kind of a liaison between the coach's office and the locker room. So I did really find that transition quite easy, and I really enjoyed it right from day one. And as far as now returning to Iowa, Bill reached out to me shortly after our season ended with Minnesota, and expressed his desire and his interest for for me to take this job, and of course I was excited of the thought of being a head coach and the thought of returning to the Iowa Wild. But I really love my job in Minnesota, and my family love living in Minnesota. So I was hesitant at first. It took me a few weeks, almost a month, to kind of come to the decision to accept this position. Again, not because I'm not excited about it. I realize the opportunity it is for me, and I absolutely love working with the prospects in the American Hockey League. It was just more how much I believe in what the Minnesota Wild are doing, and love my job there. But then I came to the realization that obviously I'm still working with the Minnesota Wild to win a Stanley Cup. It's just in a different form now, and in a different role.
Can you tell us a little about your coaching style and what your coaching style will look like?
Well, I think it's important that you have to be yourself. That's the best piece of advice I got when I started coaching, and I've always tried to hold true to that. So that won't change now that I'm a head coach. My title changes, but I don't see any reason why I would be any different. When I coach my son's youth teams, the parents call me Positive Peter. So I think that'll definitely be one of my trademarks. Of course, there's going to be days where we have to have constructive criticism, and we have to have correcting type days. And as a head coach, I'll be obviously more in that role as the one. Maybe if it's a bit of a more stern meeting, whether it's individual or team meeting, I'll be the one that will have to lead that. So that will be a bit of a change. But again, it'll be done in a positive way, like we're trying to move forward type of way and get better moving forward. Again, the role changes a bit, being the head coach compared to an assistant, but the person doesn't, and I certainly don't see my coaching style changing.
So with the NHL season just ending, congratulations to Vegas Golden Knights. How much do you look at teams like Vegas and Florida? And is there anything you take from their game that you can model with the Iowa Wild this upcoming season?
Well, we always are, as coaches, you're always looking at teams that have success, and obviously in Minnesota, we had our hands full with Vegas this season. They took it to us a few times, so it's no surprise to us that they had the success that they have, and obviously we're trying to win games every single game with the Iowa Wild, but I think our focus a little different in the American Hockey League is that we're focusing on working with those prospects and to try to get those to the next level to help the Minnesota Wild. So even though we'll be looking at things like the way Vegas protected their slot and protected their net, and the way those big defensemen were able to really do a great job of shutting down plays quickly in the defensive zone, certainly we'll be instituting those things into what we do in Iowa. And of course, Dean will do the same in Minnesota. But as much for us, it's about working with those prospects and making sure that they're doing things the right way, so that one day they can help the Minnesota Wild win hockey games.
So as you look at the team identity, are you hoping kind of for like a forward type of team, or like fast paced? Is there any type of like identity you want associated with the team?
Well, I certainly, you mentioned it. I certainly believe in fast-paced hockey. I think you've got to do things with speed. So I mentioned in my initial press conferences as the head coach that just three things that stick in my mind. Whether those are going to be our kind of our focus points or not will kind of depend when we get our staff together and what we decide to do. But I just fast, relentless, and disciplined. I just, those are three words that stick out for me. And obviously, you got to do things with speed and play at pace and practice with pace. That's where fast comes in. Relentless is just, that's just you're going to teams every single day. And also individually, you're working at your game every single day. And even if things aren't going your way, you have that relentless pursuit to be better. And I think that's real important for prospects to keep that in mind, because there are going to be bumps in the road. And it's not a smooth road transitioning to pro hockey. And then discipline obviously relates to penalties. It relates to playing within the team structure, but also relates again to prospects for making sure they're taking care of themselves off the ice. A lot of these young men will be living on their own for the first time. They'll be doing their own laundry and cooking for themselves for the first time. So you've got to be disciplined in those aspects as well. So those are certainly three kind of key words that we'll be hitting on this season with the Iowa Wild.
Are those kind of the three words that you're kind of wanting to put up in the locker room, or is there any special sayings you kind of want to put up?
Well, those certainly are obviously ones that are important to me. But as I mentioned, where we don't have our staff in place yet, we're working through that right now, and it's very important that everyone has a voice in that. And so I certainly don't want to start deciding what to put up in the locker room, things like that, until we get our staff together and we can make those decisions as a collective group.
So with the NHL season over and the draft quickly approaching, can you tell us what does your role kind of look like with the draft?
Well, I just mentioned in my role is kind of finding staff right now. We've been working through that for the last few weeks, and we're getting closer to locking in some staff. Need 2 assistant coaches and a video coach, so that's been a great process. And then as it goes to the draft, it'll be more obviously when players get drafted, it'll be just a chance to meet them and get to know them a little bit, because outside of the very, very special, they're going to be coming through Iowa, and certainly their path to Minnesota runs through Des Moines at one point. So it'll be good for me to meet them. I'll also be meeting with our pro scouts, and we'll kind of be putting our list together, and I'll give them our ideas on what we'd like to get in free agency for our team in Iowa. Obviously, those depth pieces for Minnesota that will spend some time with us in Iowa, and then it'll be preparing for our development camp at the start of July in St. Paul, and again, that'll be kind of our first chance to get our staff together and get to know each other for the first time and work together. So that'll be the role right now, and then as we transition into July and August, it'll be kind of for myself to block in our schedule for the season, and obviously not game schedule. That's done by the higher ups, but more our daily schedule to get focused in on training camp and get our videos and get our kind of structure ready as far as how we want to play and how we want to do things to start the season.
So when you think about some of the past prospects like Daniil Yurov, Liam Ogren, and Marat Konstantinov, are there any that kind of stick out that you're really excited to see come through the Iowa system?
Well, there's quite a few, obviously. Getting a chance to work with Jesper Wallstedt if he's with us in Iowa will be great. He's obviously a fantastic goalie prospect and has a bright future and has had a great start to his pro career. Then you look at the D core, and very, very exciting. That's a real focus point for us in our D core. We've got a lot of great young defensemen coming through. Damon Hunt had a really good first season last year. Simon Johansson's a real solid prospect for us. And then, we've got some guys turning pro this year in Carson Lambos, who's a first round draft pick, and can't wait to work with him. And then Ryan O'Rourke is another one who's played some pro hockey. So looking forward to seeing his progression. And Spacek's another, he had a fantastic year and really good World Junior Championships. So Kyle Masters, another real good player, played in the Memorial Cup, obviously got banged up there. So that was a bit scary, but obviously with our awesome medical team, looking forward to seeing him back on the ice. So I hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but a real exciting D core and a group of D prospects. Obviously up front, looking for guys like Marco Rossi and Sammy Walker and Adam Beckman to push for NHL jobs. So whether we see them in Iowa or not, if they're with us, obviously I'd be excited about it, and I want them to push for those National Hockey League jobs. But then I also look at some other players like a Mikey Milne, who had a real good first year pro, maybe didn't have as many numbers, but he's a real good player. So I look forward to working with those type of prospects and seeing what their ceiling is. And obviously Caden Bankier, he's going to be a great player for us and a great pro. Another guy who had a really good season with the World Junior team in Canada and played in the Memorial Cup. So lots of really exciting prospects that we're going to look forward to in Iowa. Obviously, if those players you mentioned end up in Iowa, that'll be fantastic at some point. Those guys are real exciting. And so lots to be excited about. It's a great time to be a part of the Iowa Wild.
Yeah. I interviewed Jesper, I think it was early in the year, and that was a really good interview, and he was very nice, very humble, and I really appreciate that. And actually, it's kind of funny that you mentioned Carson Lambos, because I do play-by-play for the North Iowa Bulls of the North American Hockey League, and our previous play-by-play guy actually went out to Wenatchee and just posted that the Winnipeg Jets Winnipeg Ice are going to be moving down to Wenatchee now, so he's kind of excited to see some of those guys coming through the system. So
yeah, that's exciting for Wenatchee. It's they've had a real good franchise in the BCHL for a whack of years. So yeah, exciting for the hockey fans in Wenatchee, Washington, to have a Western Hockey League team, and they get a natural rivalry now, right, with all of those teams in the state of Washington, all those teams in the U.S. division. So, yeah, it's great for more good junior hockey teams, the better.
I think the fans would be disappointed if I didn't ask this question, but as you're up in Minnesota and thinking about post game, did you ever experience a Dean Evanson post game punch to the shoulder or anything like that?
Well, of course. I mean, that was part of the job. Lucky we had Darby Hendrickson, who's really well built guy and works out a lot. So he was kind of our buffer. He did take the first line of it. But yeah, I mean, even one time I held up a whiteboard to protect myself. Dean punched right through it. So yeah, shows a lot of emotion when the team wins, and it's fantastic. It's true, it's real, and it's raw. And like I said, it was a real honor and pleasure to work under Dean. And yeah, he's got a good punch though.
So Darby told a story on 10,000 Takes about Dean injuring his hand. Is that the story that took place with the whiteboard?
No, I don't think it was even with the whiteboard. I think he went right through that, but I'm not sure what else it was, whether he hit a tie clip or what it was. But yeah, he's coming a couple times bleeding from his hand, and he didn't even realize it. So we always had as much of a laugh about it as everybody else, but it kind of took on a life of its own in Minnesota.
What's it like to work with Bill Guerin on a daily basis?
Bill's obviously he's about as smart as they come, and fantastic GM. His track record speaks for itself. We don't talk about it at all when you work with Minnesota, but the salary cap constraints, they're real, and they impact everything that the Minnesota Wild can do. And what Bill and his staff have done under those restrictions is just fantastic. And every move he makes has been close to a home run. So but he's also extremely demanding, and he expects the best from the people that work underneath him, and it makes us all better. And he's a great communicator, and that's one thing that's just the best working in this organization is the communication that runs through the entire organization, and it starts with Billy. And because of that, everybody knows where they stand, and everybody knows their job and their role. And it's certainly again, he's demanding. He expects the best from you, but that makes you expect the best out of yourself too. And so on a daily basis, it's fantastic to work in a Bill Guerin led organization.
Coming from the fans' perspective, we absolutely love Bill Guerin. So we think he's done an amazing job. So we absolutely love him.
Yeah.
So being back,
me too.
So being back in Des Moines, what was something you missed about Des Moines that you're kind of excited to get back and see again?
Well, the people. The first thing is the people in Iowa. They're just fantastic. We have so many friends that are looking forward to reconnect with them, and we really enjoyed our time. So getting back with them, the Iowa Wild have an unbelievable fan base, and it's a pleasure working for that team. The business side of the organization has just done an incredible job in the community, and so the Wild players are in really good standing in the community and really give back. So the relationship between the team and the community is just top notch because of the business staff. So just getting back with everybody down there and getting to work again, and Wells Fargo Arena is just a great place to watch a hockey game, and the in-game production is second to none. So that's certainly up the top of the list, and I'm really looking forward to Casey's Tacos Pizza too, because Casey's Pizza, I always joke that the best pizza comes from a gas station in Iowa, which you would never guess, but that Casey's Taco Pizza is something I'm looking forward to as well.
Definitely a Midwest staple, definitely a favorite around here too. So
yeah.
I've got a handful of questions from the fans. If you've got a little bit of time, we'll go through those real quick.
Yeah, of course.
So one of the questions fans wants to know is, when on the road, is there an AHL city that you really look forward to attending? And is there a special place you like to go or eat while you're there?
Wow, that's good. We got a lot of good AHL cities. Let me kind of take a second on this one. A lot of good options. Well, might not surprise anyone, but San Diego is one that we always circle on the calendar, and we're lucky enough. I hope we're going to San Diego next year, but we've always been lucky enough to get to go to San Diego in February when I was there, which is really nice to go from Iowa to California in February. And Lahaina Beach House is the name of a place on Pacific Beach that Keith Paulson, who always runs, he goes for a run every morning. He was running on Pacific Beach the first time we went there. Must have been 6 years ago now. And found this spot, and just nice, easy kind of dive bar type spot where you're right on the beach there, and you can sit and have a cold beverage and just relax in the middle of winter, and when it's probably 70 to 80 degrees out. So that's one that definitely stands out.
The schedule has yet to be announced, but if you could open up your schedule against any other team, who would you want to pick to open it up against?
That's a good question. Probably for me, probably open it up against the Chicago Wolves. They've been such a good franchise for so long in minor league hockey, and they've had my team's number when I was a player and when I was a coach. So probably the Chicago Wolves to get a crack at them, because again, they've been right at the top of minor league hockey for decades now.
Do you have any superstitions or pregame rituals as you're getting ready for the game?
Yeah, I got a couple. I don't have too many. I'm not really one of those superstitious guys, but one thing I do is I've got Hall's throat lozenges, because as a coach, you're both, it's cold on the bench, and obviously your throat gets and your voice gets used a lot. So I'll take I always have 3 lozenges on my desk, and I'll have one after warm up, one before the second period, and one before the third period. So that's a little ritual I have.
Yeah, doing play-by-play, I feel like I always got a ton of them in my pocket all the time. So shout out to Ben for giving me that word of advice on that. So
yeah, it's probably not good for our teeth, but it's it's good for our throats to get those lozenges in.
So if you weren't playing hockey, what would you want to do?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Hockey's been such a big part of my life ever since I was young. I mean, I moved away from home when I was 14 to pursue my hockey dream, and so yeah, that's a tough question for me, because my whole life's been in hockey, and everything I have is owed to that. I guess when I retired from playing, the one thing I printed it out, I never pursued it, was to be a pilot. So I guess maybe I would have been a pilot of some sort, because that obviously seems like a really good job, and something I'd be proud to do. So maybe a pilot, I guess.
So would you say that's one of your hidden talents, or do you have any other hidden talents you want to share with fans?
Definitely not a hidden talent. I mean, I think I'm a really good singer, but my kids don't think so. So according to me, I'm a good singer and a good dancer, but they certainly don't agree with me.
Yeah, my steering wheel doesn't complain all too much, but my wife is a much better singer than I am.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
So, what's the best thing about the fans in Iowa?
Probably just their passion for the team. Like and I think I say this with all respect. I say this as a positive thing. It's a minor league sports town, and people are proud of it there, and they're not pushing to get a major league pro team. They're proud of it, and so because of that, they're passionate about us winning hockey games and seeing the players move on to the NHL. I remember when we made it to the second round of the Calder Cup playoffs a few years back, when I was an assistant coach there, and the building was just a buzzing, and it was just obviously it's not a traditional hockey market, but the fans really care about our team, and of course minor league sports, people aren't just coming for the sports, they're also coming for the cheap beer and cheap hot dogs, and that's part of the experience, and that's great, but they're also there to watch us win hockey games and to see a good product on the ice. So it's the combination of that passion and the pride in minor league sports teams.
I would say one of the things that, kind of drew us there when we were going, we moved 2 hours north now, we're up in northern Iowa. But to be able to see the prospects, playing Iowa one day, and next day, boom, they're on TV, playing on second, third lineup in Minnesota. I think that's what, draws a lot of fans, is to be able to see those stars of today or tomorrow today. So
yeah, no question. That's a big thing. That's the reason why we're there with the Iowa Wild is to do that. So it's great that the people and the fan base in Iowa have embraced that.
what advice do you have for kids that want to get into hockey?
Well, first of all, you got to love it. and just get out there and be patient. And you're not going to be able to skate like Kirill Kaprizov right away. It's a hard game to learn, and focus on the skating. Once you get the skating aspect down, then the rest of it just comes, and you're going to really, really enjoy it. So I've seen it with my own children. Just start with that skating aspect, get that down. And for the parents out there, make sure you get the kids good skates. You don't have to get the most expensive top of the line ones, but I would say the one area is, and it's not, obviously to play hockey is not cheap, but invest in a decent pair of skates for the kids, because if they're not comfortable in those skates, with the challenge of learning how to skate, that makes it much more difficult. So invest in a good pair of skates, parents, and for the kids, stick with it, be patient, and get that skating down, and then you're going to love this great game.
What is something you want the fans to remember about you?
I guess that I cared as much about them as they care about us, and I think that's very important. In that, we're really lucky to do what we do, and I'm very lucky to do what I do, to work in pro hockey, and the fans they're the reason why we get to do this, and the reason why I get to work in hockey. So realize that we're doing everything we can to help the players that we have, so that they have a good product, and we're so appreciative to have great fans with the Iowa Wild, and every one of you, we look forward to meeting you and talking to you, and everybody having a real good experience here.
I want to take the time once again to say thank you for joining us today. If you ever make it up to the Mason City area, come on down to North Iowa Bulls games. We'll have you.
Oh, awesome. Thanks so much, Tom. It's great talking to you today.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me today.
Okay. Have a good one.